A woman is scraping a hide beside a fire that has been burning for 6 days without stopping. Not 6 hours, 6 days. Because if that fire goes out, the people around it may not survive the night. Somewhere behind her, younger members of the band are being kept deliberately quiet by an elder who has not slept. Not because they need rest, because noise carries. And right now, in the tree line 40 meters from where you are standing, something is listening. This is a morning in Ice Age Europe, 50,000 years ago. And in approximately 2 hours, the hunting party that left before dawn is going to come back missing someone. Today, we are going back, not to the fossils, not to the artifacts behind museum glass. We are going back to the morning before, to a band of 31 people going about their lives with complete awareness of exactly what is coming for them. By the end of this, one thing is going to stop you cold. These people were not primitive. They were brilliant, and they were surviving something that would end most of us before breakfast. It is still dark when the hunters leave. There are 7 of them, 4 men, 3 women. The idea that prehistoric hunting parties were exclusively male is something the archaeological record has been quietly dismantling for decades. A burial site in Peru dating back 12,000 years contained a woman buried with a complete big game hunting toolkit. Not a coincidence, not an outlier, a pattern. The hunters move in absolute silence. This is not natural to human beings. Silence requires discipline, training, years of practice. Every member of this group has been learning to move this way since they were old enough to follow. Because in this landscape, the difference between quiet and noisy is sometimes the difference between hunter and hunted. They carry spears tipped with flint napped to an edge sharper than surgical steel. The flint work alone represents hours of skilled labor. There are people in this band whose primary contribution is their ability to shape stone, tool makers, specialists, because a hunting party with inferior weapons does not come home. The world they are moving through is not empty wilderness. It is a landscape they know the way you know your own neighborhood. Every slope, every water source, every game trail worn into the frozen ground by animals following the same paths their parents followed. They are not wandering, they are navigating. Back at the camp, the fire is the center of everything. Not metaphorically, literally. The physical organization of this camp places the fire at the center of a rough circle of shelters constructed from mammoth bone and hide. Mammoth leg bones driven into the frozen ground as foundation posts, ribs arching overhead as structural supports, hides stretched and layered, their edges weighted with stones to seal against wind that can drop the effective temperature to something that kills exposed skin in minutes. These shelters are warm. Not comfortable by any standards you currently use, but warm enough to keep everyone inside alive through nights that drop to -30. That is engineering, calculated construction by people who understood insulation, structural load, and wind dynamics entirely through observation and inherited knowledge. The fire at the center of this camp has a keeper, an older man whose entire function in this band is to ensure the fire does not go out. He sleeps beside it. He wakes through the night to feed it. He carries preserved embers when the band moves, nestled in a clay container packed with slow-burning material, a portable fire transported across terrain that can kill you if you stop moving. The fire keeps the predators at a distance. Most of them. Here is what shares this landscape with 31 human beings on this particular morning. Cave lions, larger than any lion alive today. Ambush predators operating in coordinated groups with hunting strategies considerably more sophisticated than previously understood. A cave lion does not announce itself. It waits, sometimes for hours. In a landscape where movement is survival, the thing that does not move is almost impossible to detect until it is already moving towards you. Cave hyenas, not the scavengers of popular imagination. Ice Age cave hyenas were apex predators in their own right, operating in large social groups capable of running prey to exhaustion. Their bite force could crush the femur of a mammoth. And above everything else, the thing that reshapes every decision this band makes every single day, the dire wolf. Not the fantasy creature of popular culture, the actual dire wolf. slightly larger than a modern gray wolf, heavier through the chest and shoulders, operating in packs that researchers have documented at up to 30 individuals. 30 against 31. Those are the numbers of this landscape, and every person in this camp understands them precisely. Among the band, the younger adults have roles just as defined as anyone else. There are no idle members of this group. Every person physically capable of contributing does. The less experienced adults gather firewood, carry water, assist the toolmakers, and watch the perimeter and rotating shifts under the guidance of those who have been doing it longer. They know which wood burns long and which burns hot. They know how far from camp they can range and still return before the adults tracking their movements become concerned. They know, with complete precision, exactly how far is too far, because too far is where the things that eat you live. This is not fear used to control. This is information that keeps people alive. The boundary between what is known and what is not known in this landscape is not a metaphor. It is a survival boundary that every member of this band maps constantly and never crosses without preparation. The women processing hides beside the fire are doing something that requires more strength than most people recognize. Fresh hide is stiff, fibrous, resistant. Brain tanning, the technique used across this period worldwide, involves working the brain matter of the killed animal into the hide repeatedly over hours. The scraping tool is stone. The motion is repetitive and forceful. The women doing this work are not weak. Their skeletal remains, when found, show arm and shoulder muscle attachment points that indicate upper body strength comparable to modern athletes. Every piece of clothing this band wears was made this way, sewn with bone needles so fine that when archaeologists first found them, they could not accept they were intentionally manufactured at this scale of precision. The thread is sinew, twisted to specific gauges for specific applications. Clothing in this landscape is not comfort, it is survival technology. A seam that fails in a night at -30 does not get mended in time. At some point in the morning, the elder calls the band together. This is teaching time. The elder is approximately 50 years old. In Ice Age Europe, this is remarkable. Average life expectancy across this period, if you survived childhood, was closer to 35. Reaching 50 required a combination of skill, luck, and the sustained protection of your community. She has earned her status not through dominance, but through utility. She knows things nobody else in this band knows. Her death would be an information loss the band would feel for years. She tells the group the story of the ravine to the north. Not as legend, as operational briefing. What happened in that ravine, what the signs looked like before it happened, what the surviving hunter did correctly, what the one who did not survive did incorrectly. The band listens with the focused attention of people who understand that what they are hearing is not optional. Here is the thing about the predators in this landscape that changes how you understand this entire story. The cave lion, the direwolf, the cave hyena, they are not obstacles to human survival in Ice Age Europe. They are the reason human beings in Ice Age Europe are what they are. Every cognitive advantage that modern human beings possess, the capacity for complex planning, for abstract communication, for cooperation with non-relatives, for the transmission of accumulated knowledge across generations, every single one of these traits exists in its current form because of sustained evolutionary pressure from predators that would happily eat you. You are as intelligent as you are because your ancestors were hunted. The social bonds in this band, the absolute interdependence, the carefully maintained relationships, the knowledge that exile from the group is death, exists because a lone human being in this landscape lasts approximately as long as it takes for something with better senses and a lower center of gravity to locate them. We are a social species because solitude killed us. We communicate the way we do because information sharing kept us alive. None of this was lost in the 50,000 years between this morning and yours. It was built in. It is in you right now, the product of 31 people and the fire they kept burning and the predators that made them what they were. The hunting party comes back at midday. 6 of them. The camp knows before they arrive. The number is wrong. The sound of the return is wrong. The elder reads it from the perimeter, and her expression tells the women beside the fire before anyone speaks. Grief in this band is not private. It cannot be. There is no architecture of separation here. It happens in the middle of the camp, beside the fire, in front of everyone. Because grief is also information. It says this landscape is real. It says the things we told you are not stories. It says what happened today could happen to anyone in this band, and everyone here needs to understand that completely. That night, the band does not sleep separately. They pull the shelters closer. The firekeeper feeds the fire through the night without being asked. The hunters take the perimeter positions without discussion. Those who need rest sleep at the center, closest to the fire, surrounded on all sides by those who are not sleeping. This is not ceremony. This is security protocol. The cave art they leave behind on the walls of places like Lascaux has been puzzling researchers for a century. Not because it is primitive, because it is not. The rendering of movement in these animals, the suggestion of speed, of weight, of the specific way a bison's shoulder moves when it runs, is what you produce when you have watched these animals so intently and for so long that their movement patterns are stored in your memory with the detail of obsession. These are not people scratching pictures. These are observers of extraordinary skill recording information about the most important subjects in their world with a precision that required both technical mastery and deep understanding of what they were depicting. The person who painted the horses at Lascaux knew those horses. The painting is a document. It is knowledge made permanent on a wall. 50,000 years later, that wall is still there. The firekeeper's descendants, all of them, every human being alive today, carry the result of his work in the genetic legacy of a species that survived something that should not have been survivable. The scraping tool, the flint point, the bone needle, the fire container, the direct ancestors of the scalpel, the knife, the surgical thread, the portable stove. The story told by the elder to keep the band away from the ravine, the direct ancestor of every piece of written warning, every safety protocol, every piece of transferred knowledge that allows a species with no claws, no significant speed, and no natural armor to dominate a planet. The grief expressed beside the fire, unchanged, completely, entirely, recognizably unchanged. The predators are still out there, they just look different now. And the fire is still burning. Drop in the comments which part of this stopped you, because for most people it is not the predators or the weapons or even the cave art. It is the elder, the 50-year-old woman who survived everything this landscape could throw at her and spent her remaining years making sure the people around her knew what she knew. She had no writing, no institution, no title. She just remembered, and she made sure others did too. Everything you know that keeps you alive came from someone like her.